without further ado, it's my utmost pleasure to introduce Johnny Chu, the founder of JC Architecture from Taiwan. He graduated from Columbia University, lived, worked, and taught in more than 6 countries. Johnny has the great belief that good design must be inspired from the surrounding environment. It can define who one is, how he lives, plays, and rests. It's a multidisciplinary design firm, which is very interesting for me at least, and for probably for everyone listening to this. He also won the World Best Interior at World Architecture Festival inside 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce Johnny Chu. You have the floor, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. I'm on. Hello. Hello.
Hello, hello. Can you
Hi.
hear us?
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. It's such an honor. And to share a little bit about what we do over in Asia. So I'm gonna go ahead and share the whole presentation. I'm gonna jump right in straight away. Everything is good with the screen?
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. I'll dive in and present the first project, Living Lab. Our duty is to give building a new lease of life so that they will be able to live today and tomorrow. I would like to emphasize this opportunity and the relevance of our design approach. This project is not about luxury and refined details. It focuses on a more realistic socio-economic situation. It is about believing in the ripple effect, where we embrace the idea of rehab, reuse, and rehouse, while embracing the old to make it new again. As Taipei, where the project is located, builds more and more affordable housings, we find this environment incredibly unfriendly in the sense of lifestyle and in our pockets in a financial sense. What if there's an alternative solution for us to live in with a better environment with lower costs, using the existing structures that we have available here and now? This is a story for the three kids, for them to have a life in the dense concrete jungle of Taipei. This is where our story starts. As we see many houses that are unaffordable to us, we are unable to find solutions that we can live in Taipei suitable for the kids as they grow up. We start to look for alternatives, and what we found was this. More than a thousand year, More than a thousand old style housings up to 80 years old exist within the Taipei urban fabric. I'm sure there's a lot more over in Europe, but in Taipei, 80 is probably the limit. And these projects are really uniquely interesting in a way, but also really horribly um, run down. Our project location is right in the dense central areas of Taipei City, where the Japanese university dormitories has been for the past 90 years. There has been continuous occupation of these buildings until the last professor passed away 5 years ago. When we found the house, it was not in its prime condition, but we can see that there are certain memories that are left behind and its progression over its 90-year span. This is our construction process. We try to keep the Japanese house as original as it is. Although it has already much of its authenticity, we try to salvage what we can. We work hard to find the original masters who can still do old wood window frames, where this craftsmanship is likely to be lost to the alumni window frame market. At the same time, we take fun in exploring the potentials of the space to bring the space alive. We construct and we design. We construct more and we design more. The result is a relationship with the craftsman working hand in hand, where we learn from one another. The beautiful scent from the hinoki wood, with its natural scent oil, brush off its insects and its natural properties. From the moment of the entry, we wanted to create a touch into the past. Using the old reclaimed wood found in the house, the hand touches the beautiful wood, staining your hand as your hand glides across the beam to open the entrance. And swipe the door across the air, a beautiful smell of the hinoki wood transcends and welcomes you into the house. Upon entering, you are being greeted by an old construction method of polished stone, acting as an extension of the house. It bounces light on the white stone surface into the deep corners. We deliberate not to create a door, but small details that opens up and greets our guest. Like the entrance, we took the advantage of the traditional Japanese shoji door idea and tried to make and create spaces that opens up, giving multi-dimensional to the Japanese house. We design walls that can open up and connect to the outside, allowing natural sunlight to infiltrate the family room where the children can play, and windows opening up to the eatable garden to smell the fresh scent of the rosemary, which also keeps the mosquitoes away. The opening up continues in a vertical direction into the sky, where we bought a second hand car sunroof window and installed it into our bathroom. The whole house is designed with many layers in the horizontal level as much as a vertical level. It also opens up to allow natural ventilation throughout the Japanese house. Rooms opening up one another into the bathroom, kitchen, gardens, where the water is recycled. We try to create a place where kids learn about sustainability and can be playful at the same time. My kids always say it's the best place for hide and seek. To limit the use of new built materials, we try to look into the past for material ideas, of which 70% of the material used is recycled, such as the reclaimed marble pieces, which was shattered from the recent Taiwan earthquakes. Even though we cannot use them in its whole piece, we can translate them into beautiful statement marble flooring by using traditional techniques from the past. Other things such as construction wire mesh to diffuse the hard surface of the original concrete facade, or the rebar that holds up the dining table, creating a story between the old and the new. We designed a dynamic shelf to complement the original wood ceiling, supporting the multifunctionality of the kitchen area. With a house of two adults and three kids, things could get messy. Therefore, we built a fridge-like vanity into the bathroom with multiple levels at different height for storage purpose, from kids to adults. And once closed, we get away from all the mess a bathroom usually makes. Other than just revealing the old structures that was once hidden for the purpose of HVAC, we thought hard about what we could do with the original beams to create interaction. And again, to create our relationship to the past with the family. There's something beautiful about verticality, even if it's outside. Therefore, when the old bathroom ceiling is collapsing, I thought about just opening to the sky, allowing the sun and the rain to penetrate. Finally, we wanted a connection to the rooftop to rediscover a 90-year-old house through the context of Taipei City. As we climb to the roof, we connect the house, the block, the city. In a concrete jungle, we found a piece of sky. The idea of this, we wanted to push a little bit more. So through the other 1,000 houses, we try to look for the next possibilities, and then also in making more families the possibility to live in a friendly, sustainable way. What's even more incredible in a culture like Taiwan or Asia, with dealing with projects like this, it's about the cost and the time that we had to do to construct this. So when we won the Inside World Festival of the Interior in 2019, it was a real crazy feeling that a project this size, without the Western financial powers of research and details and everything that goes into making a project perfect, we still outseated all competitors. It was really unbelievable that a project this size, small, not so much money can win over a project like Noma or this office from New Zealand. I think it's just an incredible sensation that the juries recognize for a new type of the ability to live within the city without going to apartments, and that reclaimed housings, rental housings, once has a lot of more opportunity and maybe even a better idea of living, especially inside this COVID era. So yeah, we're celebrating all last year and then into this year as well. So my name is Johnny Chu. I'm the founder of JC Architecture. I grew up in New Zealand, then Australia, then I went to Sweden, KTH, and then I went to Japan and Columbia University in New York, and then I came back to Taiwan. I wasn't really familiar with the Taiwan situation, but the throughout the 10 years, incredible opportunities has been happening in Asia. So we've been winning a lot of beautiful design awards, such as IF, such as Good Design, IDA, and a lot of um, opportunities has allowed us to create a lot of projects, maybe over 350, I would say, in the past 10 years. And we just love the projects and we just love doing projects in Asia now. However, I just like to put in this couple minutes about the challenges of working in Asia for people who are interested in. As Elon Musk said, Asia means fast and cheap, basically. So factory are built here, and you get you if you try to get all the cheapest stuff from Asia to go into the rest of the world. And so that happens inside a architectural sense as well. That all the architecture, all the convenience, it's more about how to hurry up and get this done rather than really thinking about what will be happening to the environment or take time in the research and the development of projects. So you get these beautiful project by OMA, but then the rest of the building just cannot keep up and presents works and project like this. And unfortunately, signages like this. But it's also quite interesting because learning from Las Vegas has been talking about this, since the 70s, that building should be a monument. As long as it's a sign, there could be a lot of a fake facade, so to speak. The function of ornaments, discusses about the elements to create that fun facade, the fun surface. In Taiwan, we have something called the Pritzker Prize facade, where they invite all these Pritzker Prize winners and just do facades on themselves without looking at the architecture. So this fastness really got into even things has to be bigger, has to be more colorful, and then it goes back to again what the society of spectacle is talking about. Fastness again is being reinterpreted with the Great Leap Forward by Kuhas. It talks about the number of architects in China. Well, we're in Taiwan, but it talks about the number of China architects compared with the West, but the amount of work we have here, and unfortunately, getting only 1/10 of the design fee. So you can see that without much design fee, we have to work 10 times as fast to really make up for what we don't have, which is interesting. Then you get into this culture of a lot of fake things coming in. Xiaomi copying almost just the Apple products, or maybe that's okay for a product level. But when you look at from a hotel, a couple $1 billion sites, you also get these really cheap knockoffs, which is really sad. My project Les Bebes also has been copied a few times into other shops and even into a seven-story tower. But there are solutions in this very challenging Asia society that I am seeking. I'm taking. So I'm taking the idea of contemporary. I'm taking the idea of temporariness and the speed and the mobility into design such as the train here. I'm taking this very rough construction into a more using the same type of material, but using it in a different way with lightings that allows for that its prestige to shine. So these are all kind of related, and in a way, I'm by basing in my home country, Taiwan now, I'm really trying to search for these identities and then bring these identities out so that we can know who we are. And I think that was one of the reason why we won the World Interior of the Year award. So I'd like to bring you out to a public project. It's called Happier Cafe. Here we're dealing with the sense of budget and again speed. It's a 12-day project um, for 400 square meter area. This is inside a old Air Force headquarters that's been moved away, so it's just been sitting there. The idea is to design a happier cafe. That's what my client wanted. During the first meeting, we really didn't know how to design happiness, as happiness is kind of like a brand. So these doesn't really help, even though it's the meaning of life. Doesn't help us to design that kind of space. So what I did is I asked all the clients to sit down and write to me what their happiness is about. They write drinks, sunshine, daybed, comfortable chair, doing something new, listening to music. These are really beautiful as they share their happiness towards me. So during the second meeting, I put them into a Excel graph and with all the attributes on the left hand side and everything that has a lot more commonality like comfortness, knowledge, drinks. I circle them in pink. But what's more interesting is the front column, singular and group column. Here you see you should be able to, with this happiness, you should be able to find solidarity in your spaces for you to be happier. So hence happier cafe. Singular spaces, as we calculate, needs about 75%, and group spaces needs about 25%. The challenge is that with all our projects, I'm sure with many of the colleagues' project as well, we only have $4,000 in a 400 square meter site, which means it's $10 per square meter, which basically nothing to the space. We didn't give up. We look at alternatives, how to separate the space. For example, can we use curtain? Can we use furniture? Maybe we can use a roller blind. And then the roller blind idea gave us an idea. Maybe we can leave some message on the roller blind itself. So then we started to think, can we also use this materiality to express an idealness of happiness and thought? And since it's on the old site, it's on the library, it's inside the old library itself, we thought maybe we use the recycled paper and use the brown paper and then maybe work that into our material, the final material. Being in Taiwan, the coolest thing is that you phone up a manufacturer and then they'll send you whatever you want. So we bought a giant roll of paper and then started to test out what possibility is it that we can create solitude spaces. For example, tents, tables, and then if it's possible that we can just use one single roll of paper to create the whole space. That creates different possibilities within this space. We, of course, need to test the strength of the paper. So we pour all water on it and then just step right into it. Safe. Did not rip. Okay, and then we start to rip, we start to put coffee on it, we start to sit on it. So it's really pushing the idea of paper into more. And since nobody has used paper to space before, we then work a lot of efficient details on our own to try it out, how to hang these papers into space and how to roll them. Since the budget was so low, we decided to use paper as our lighting source, and so we fold the papers into a light shade. We use byproducts of paper to make into furnitures, and the paper space or the Happier Cafe has been constructed. This one into a bed, this one into a dance performance because now it inspires so many paper enthusiasts, and they want to interact with it. So many events has been held. So I would say the idea of happiness really translated from the materiality itself into the space itself. And what's even more interesting is that I always know that I wanted to somehow one day, I know the store will be, the cafe will be, and the public space will be closed. If I can then roll up the idea of all these paper and then put them back in the tube. So it becomes almost like a time capsule of remembering these items and happiness that people drew. Then I can recapture these imagination and then ship them overseas and then share them with another city. How amazing would that be? And the opportunity came when Tokyo invited us for Happier Cafe for the 2018 Design Art. This time with a lot of other interesting designers and architects. Given a bigger site, we had to test the materials to see how it would fit inside a Japanese building code and legal restrictions. So we tested with paper. Oh, sorry, we tested with fire. We tested with water, and we tested with weight because everything has to be shipped over there and built in a 4 hour time slot. So a lot of practice was done. This time, if you guys have been to Tokyo, it's in Midtown. So it's quite an interesting place. Almost triple the size of what we had before. This time we work with B&B Italia, so presenting the most beautiful chair using the cheapest material, which is paper, and then seeing the Japanese audience interact with it. So the final project I want to show you it's another kind of public space. It's a moving public space actually. What happened last year was February 11th, 2019. Something terribly happened to our transportation system. The TRA, Taiwan Railway Administration, spent huge amounts of money to transform this old train. And unfortunately, this was the process and the final production, and the whole country was devastated, and everyone was complaining and bad mouthing the train administration. How could you in 2019 design a train such as this? It was unbelievable. So what we did is I really wanted to help the company, and I was fortunate enough to offer the opportunity to make a design. The concept was a journey, and the journey is to go around Taiwan and see the most beautiful sceneries, the blue oceans, the farmlands, going into the mountainsides and to the different mountain sides of Taiwan. So somehow I want to capture these, the nature, the locality, the tradition, the memory. We call this the train, the moving building. And the moving building is to really relook at the idea, the beautiful Taiwan in a horizontal format using speed, but this time not as the fast speed that I was talking about, but using slow speeds. That if we can translate time into slowness and allowing the outside scenery to come in, that can help us to look at space or look at the landscape in a different whole way. So the train design wasn't really about having decorations or what kind of styles. It's really to remove all the obstacles and allow the Taiwanese landscape and building and city to come into the interior. And we got started. The first thing we look at is the anticipated journey. So we start to look at ticket designs, how that will influence you. We look at exterior designs. We want some kind of luxuriness to it. So we like blackness. And it was so the black also, it was one of the presidential train cars, mixing with the orange, which is the traditional train track color. Having these two mixed together makes a new different proportion for the train. And the orange itself is also a highlighter idea. So the highlight of the train as it goes around the country, it highlights all the beautiful parts of the Taiwanese landscape. We use the autumn collection as an idea to showcase all the landscape colors in Taiwan. So basically, we went from this kitchen car into this car. We went from this living room into this room and the passenger car. The light, we started with lighting design. You can see the old car was almost like an office environment, which is really sad. Why would you want to travel in a train when you're in the office environment? So we toned down the lights. We toned down the lights so that we can get a lot more exterior lighting, sun lighting, natural lighting to come in and filter our space. The kitchen bar design was really about bringing all the outside materials inside. So while we're traveling around this country, we can touch the surface and then we can look at the outside, and somehow that links up together. The most thing we're proud of is actually the electrical works. You can see the electrical works all the way in the back. We had to tidy and somehow manage to persuade all the safety codes in the guidebook so that we can make them into one beautiful single line material. And all the leathers and all the marbles that somehow connects the outside with the inside. The seating design, unfortunately, we didn't want to take away all the blue seating. So we had to take out some, and we designed seating with like pebble stone material and ideas so that they could link up between the blue. Well, unfortunately, I really wanted to take away the blue. Maybe in the future train design. Okay, and then with the customized sketchings of the logo itself. So we're getting away from the printed materials, but going back to the old days of how seats is done. So this is the completion of the train in last year December, and since now it's been in operation.
Thank you so much, Johnny. I and thank you for so much for sharing with us all your inspiring creative processes and the result
Thank
of.
you. So I'm gonna end here.
Just a second before going for the next speaker. I would love to have more time and ask you more questions, but we are already a bit behind the schedule. But I have a question for you. The dream of many architects is to build the construction from scratch, to have a clean sheet and a lot of freedom. And on the other side, we need more buildings that need retrofitting than we need new ones. So what would you say to architects to convince them to engage in retrofitting, in reclaiming houses and materials, in basically creating a new life from the existing one?
I think that's a very good question. As architects, we're trained to look at ground up things, and it's still a dream of mine to build from ground up. But when I come back to this environment and with some of the projects, for example, the living lab or the train is actually a 70-year-old train. So it made me realize that not everything has to start fresh. If we start old, if we look at the culture, if we look at the story, and then if we allow that to be a new storyline in your own work and for the country and for your clients and for the brand, actually that is even stronger. And that has even more opportunity for you to find yourself and for you to find your own identity. And I think that's a really important part to being a designer is to tell people who you are.
Thank you so much, Johnny, for everything. It was a pleasure, and thank you for joining us here at Share. We are going now for the next speaker.